always knew from when I was very small I was missing something. Why did my mom give me up? It was like we instantly connected, and it's like we've never been apart.
I connected with Marcie while volunteering through the adoption search group. She already knew who her birth mother was, but was now looking for information about her birth father. The way we connected was pretty interesting. There had been another volunteer working with her, but for health reasons, she couldn't keep up the researching. I didn't often take searches from other people who had done a lot of researching because I felt like it was confusing to come in after they've done so much work and try to start my own search. I thought that a lot of the elements surrounding Marcie's adoption and the information that had been given by her mother were pretty interesting, especially that she worked for the government and had spent time in some exotic locations. At the point I had taken over, there was a pretty detailed search into her birth father already underway. From some records she had obtained, Marcie had learned that her birth mother had stated that her birth father was killed in a bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. Marcie had done a 23andMe test, but I encouraged her to do Ancestry to bring more DNA matches in and to get a more comprehensive search going for her birth father. We would find out pretty early into the search that what her birth mother had said couldn't have been true, and after connecting some of her matches, we were able to narrow it down to who her actual birth father was. When I finally felt like I had a solid idea of who her birth father was, I had sent her a picture I had found from his time in the military, and she just sent me back a picture of her. The resemblance was uncanny. Although it was amazing to finally know who her birth father was, he was deceased at that time, so she wasn't able to connect with him. She did eventually have a reunion with his son, who is her half-brother. The most wonderful reunion she did get was with her half-sister from her mother, and it turned out to be one of the single most important events of her life. Here is my interview with Marcie. So, at what age were you adopted, and where were you adopted from?
Okay, I was adopted at age 2, and I was adopted from Hawaii.
Oh, okay. Do you remember how you found out you were adopted?
Yes, and when I was adopted in the court system, it is required by law that they tell the family and tell the child throughout their life that they're adopted. It's not ever a secret. So I was told from the time I was adopted all the way through that I was adopted. And I was always known as the chosen one, the special one. And that's what my parents always said. I was chosen and I'm special. So it always made a special meaning to me.
Oh, that's great. So what made you want to find your birth family? And was there anything specific about that time that you felt like it was important to start searching?
Well, I actually searched twice. The first time I did it was because I was getting out of high school, and I knew that I wanted to marry my boyfriend that we had been dating for several years, and I knew that, eventually we'd want kids. So I said, well, I need to figure out what history as far as health was involved, to make sure it was safe. And then also, I just wanted to find out more about me because I had asthma and other, health issues. And I wanted to find out if that was hereditary, where it was coming from. So I had gotten my adoption records, but I hadn't went any further with it. So then years went by, and my husband and I were talking, and he was like, we need to do 23andMe. And then we did that and came out with some people, and then I hired somebody to do some research, and then I went through Ancestry and I found you, and throughout all the process then we finally found everybody, and everything worked out the way I wanted to. But it was just a matter of that push, because I've always been afraid of rejection, and that was my biggest fear. And I was like, but what if? And my husband said, don't worry about the what if, we'll figure it out. But you need to see, because even as a small child, when I was adopted, I always told my adoptive mother, I have a sister. Well, I have an adopted sister. And my mom would say, no, you have an adopted sister. She's right here. I said, no, I have a sister. And come to find out, I really did.
Yeah. Was your adoptive family like supportive of you searching for your birth family?
Absolutely. In fact, when we went back to Hawaii when I graduated, my mother, my adoptive mother, she said, let's find your records, because at that time I hadn't gotten my records. And she said, let's go to the courthouse or to the library and see if they have records, or, any way to get your records. She said, and let's see what we can find. And she said, and I will pay whatever fees, whatever to get you an investigator or whatever. She was super supportive. In fact, up until the year that my adoptive mother passed away, she knew that, over the time that I had found my biological sister, and she said, I want to meet her. She said, because she's part of you, and I want to meet her. Well, my adoptive mom didn't get to do that. She passed away the beginning of that November that my biological sister and her husband came for Thanksgiving. But she had always planned to meet her, and it was sad, but it was neat in the same respect that she always supported me, and it was never... She always wanted me to be happy, and I was extremely happy in my adopted family. Yeah. But I always was missing that other part of me, and she knew that, and that's why, she pushed me, and then, of course, my husband eventually pushed me too, and we went ahead and found everybody.
So I know you did have some information that was, I guess it was from your biological mother. I remember there was something about your father being killed in a bombing in Vietnam or something. So you had something though, right?
Yes, but as we were researching, we found out that that was bogus. Yeah. That was all a lie. But yes, I did have that. And I also had from the adoption place, they had told my adopted family that I came from a musical family, that my mother was musically inclined, and it also said that ovarian cancer and female cancer ran in the family, and because I was a female, I needed to know that, going down the line. So I was always told that, those were the two things that I knew. Oh, wow.
So how did you find out who your mother was? Did you get your original birth certificate?
I did. I got that. Okay. And then we went and I actually looked up her previous marriage, and I actually called him and talked to him, and then he gave me some information, and then I found some of the cousins and I contacted them, and they gave me more information about my mother and stuff like that. But yes, it was very interesting.
Yeah. So you did find your half-sister.
Yes.
Did you find her through Ancestry? That was how you guys connected.
Mm-hmm. Yes. In fact, it was the oddest thing, because she contacted me through the little chat thing that they have, and she said, hey, it shows we have a lot of DNA, that we share a lot of segments. And she said, can you contact me? And she gave me her number. And so I got to looking into it and everything, and found out that she was my half sister. So I called her on her time and my time, and I said, are you sitting down? And she said, yes. And I said, good. I said, who's your mama? And she started laughing, and she told her, our mom's name. And I said, guess what? That's my mama. And she almost started crying. We both, at the end of the conversation, we were almost crying, because it was such a joyous occasion, that we found each other through this. Yeah. And you had also helped me a little bit, and it was just so special, just knowing that, we were both adopted, and there's only 2 years between us. And so it was so shocking that not only did she give up one child, but she gave up two. And when I had talked to my cousins, or before, one of our cousins, he had said that their mother, which was our mom's sister, had said that she knew about me, but I don't think she knew about me. I think she knew about my sister, because they knew about one of us, but they didn't know there was two of us until we get back to and then they were like, oh wow, there's two of you, we thought there was one of you.
Wow, that's crazy.
But I thought, because she's the oldest, that's probably how they knew about her, because I couldn't imagine that they would know about me if I'm younger than her. So but we're not sure. But they did know about one of us. They just were shocked when they met us and found out there was two.
So you did end up figuring out who your father actually was, and he was deceased, but were you able to make any connections with his family?
Yes, yes. Actually, I have a half brother through him,
Oh,
and we have connected, and I have connected with his wife and found out information about our father and everything. And it's been really super cool. We've kind of gotten busy in our lives and kind of lost connection the last probably 6 months or so. But for a while there, we FaceTimed for a long time. And he did the DNA also just to show that, that we were a match, because at first he wasn't sure, and that was fine. And we did the DNA and found out we were definitely the match. And then he sent me pictures, and he sent me like stuff of our dad's, his passport, other things. So I have mementos of our dad, and believe it or not, our dad is actually buried like an hour and a half away from where I live, which is super cool.
Yeah, that is close.
And my brother actually wants to come and show me like where our dad's buried, and talk about where he worked last and everything. So that will be very interesting. He just works a lot and I work a lot. We just haven't been able to, and he's from a different state, so it's been kind of hard to connect with him. But hopefully soon, when he retires, he will be able to do that.
Yeah, that's really cool though. How long after you met your half sister? I know you guys have met in person. So how long after you guys actually connected did you meet in person?
Oh gosh, that I don't remember. It wasn't real long. It was maybe 6 months or so, because she told her adopted dad about me, and he said, "Oh, you have to go." He said, "You have to go see her, and you have to do it quick." And because you never know what life's going to bring, right?
Definitely.
And so he made sure that her and her husband came, and then they came, I want to say, within 6 months of us talking and getting to know each other, she was here. And she spent a wonderful week, and we got to, her and her husband, they came for Thanksgiving and got to meet the family. We had all the family here and everything, and it was so special. And since then, we've gotten together one other time, and then this summer we will also get together. So we talk all the time.
Yeah. How far of a plane ride is it to see her in Australia? That's
I think
far.
it's like 20 hours or more. I can't even remember. I looked it up because I have to get tickets for Australia, and I did look it up, but I cannot remember exactly, because we're doing a different route, because we're going through Hawaii and then to Australia, and so it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's at least 20 hours.
Wow.
But well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have been pretty surprising to find out that you did have a half sister and she was halfway across the world in Australia.
Absolutely, it was. But it was such a wonderful surprise. And it showed that I have always had that connection with her, even when I was very small, but I didn't know it. I knew there was somebody out there, and I knew I had a sister, but she's in another continent. It was like, what?
Yeah, that's. So when you guys were together, did you notice any like personality traits that you share, or do you guys look alike at all?
Well, we do share some facial structures according to our family. When we met them last summer, they were like, "Oh yeah, y'all, we do smiles alike. We laugh a little bit similar. A lot of people think our facial, like cheekbones and stuff like that, are alike, and a lot of our personality is alike. Like, she's very joyous and just upbeat and stuff, and I am too, and we just get along super. It's like she'll say one thing and I'll ping off of it. It's just crazy how it's like we might have been apart for all these years, but we are still together. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. I don't even know how to explain the connection, but it was like we instantly connected, and it's like we've never been apart.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
It's like you got like an instant best friend, basically, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yes, we are super, super close. And I am so thankful every day that I did Ancestry and found you and found, just everybody, because it's been a blessing. It really has.
So were you like super nervous the first time that she was coming to meet her? You guys had talked all the time, but this was going to be the first time you're meeting in person. Were you nervous?
Oh my gosh, yes. When I went to pick her up at the airport, we had this big sign, and me and my daughter went and got her, her and her husband, and they were coming off the to get their luggage, and we instantly saw each other. We went running across the airport and hugged and hugged and hugged, and it was so funny. And then we grabbed my daughter, and she hugged, and then we grabbed her husband. We all hugged, and we couldn't quit hugging. It was so hard to quit hugging. It was like, oh my gosh, you're here. It was crazy, and it was such a special moment. I mean, it was insane how wonderful it was. But it was one of those. We were crying and we were hugging, and we just couldn't get enough of just that first minute of, oh my gosh, now it's real. And same thing when she left that first time. I mean, I was crying, she was crying. It was crazy. It was like, no, don't go back.
Oh. Was any of your adopted family able to meet her? Any of them?
Yes, my adopted sister, and believe it or not, my adopted sister has adopted twins, and they met her, and of course we got to share adoption stories because they have met their biological family, and then their families were here. The twins' families were here, and then my nephew's family was here. So, and then our personal children were here. But it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful for everybody to be together, for Thanksgiving. And we did it at night, which was very different, but it was unreal. In fact, when my adopted sister met my biological sister, she said, "Welcome to the family." Oh. And my biological sister said, you're welcoming me into the family? And she said, you're my sister. She said, we're all connected. And we all hugged, and it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I mean, I kind of already know, but how has this changed your life to have her?
Oh my gosh, it has just, like you said, I've gained a best friend, and I found the missing piece that I always knew from when I was very small. I was missing something, and I found her, and we are super close. We talk all the time, and I couldn't be any closer to somebody. I mean, she's like another piece of me, and we connect, and it's wonderful to have somebody that you were so close to, and I found her.
That's great. So what would you tell people who are starting to think about looking for their birth family and think they may want to go for that?
Well, with me, like I said, I was always afraid of rejection, and I think that's part of being adopted. You're always afraid of, well, why did our mom give us up? And I felt that way. Why did my mom give me up? Because I knew of her age, and it wasn't an age thing, but why? And so that fear of rejection was huge in me. But have people around you that support you and that encourage you, and get over the rejection part. Because yes, you might have rejection in some areas, but the overall scheme of finding people is always wonderful, because you have not only your adopted family, but then you also have a brand new family, and they can blend together. And I have seen that through my families. They have all blended together. And now my family has more family, and we all get along wonderfully. But just don't be afraid to step out of the box and go for it. Let your rejection kind of those thoughts take a back step, is what I would say. Because, I mean, if I had always thought, I was rejected at birth, she didn't want me, if I kept that thought, I would have never went any further. And I wouldn't have what I have now. I would always encourage them.
So did you end up finding out why your mother gave you up for adoption? I think she traveled a lot for work, right? So was it just really that?
I don't know. Our cousins, when we met them, they really weren't sure. I think she was just trying to find herself, and she wasn't ready to be a mom because, like I said, she had given up my sister, and then she gave up me. And I think with her, like you said, traveling and trying to maneuver, just life in general, being young, I think it just wasn't the right time for her, and she had other plans for her life, and it didn't include us, which was fine, now. But She did the right thing at the time, and luckily, me and my sister were very blessed to have wonderful adopted parents and
Yeah.
adopted families, and so I'm thankful because I know that if my life had not been that way, my life would have been a lot different.
She passed away a couple years after that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah, I would have been very small without a mother, and I mean, my life would have taken a whole nother turn. So, yes,
Yeah.
there's
But
a reason for everything, and I saw it
yeah.
once we really started looking.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least you were able to speak with some of her family and get to know kind of who she was a little bit.
oh yes, yes, and I mean, they had wonderful insight on her because they knew her, and they could tell us stories, and they told us stories about our grandparents, and everything, and it was really, really cool to get that insight and start putting pieces together of, okay, well, this makes sense, or that made sense, or it was just really an eye opener to how the family dynamics worked, and how back in that day things worked, because back then it was a lot different than it is now. Our mother did the right thing for what she needed and what we needed. She knew that we needed more, and she gave us what we needed. And I will never forget that she gave us that blessing. She gave us good homes. I'm thankful for that.
Well, that's great. I mean, it sounds like everything turned out wonderful, so I'm really happy to hear that.
Thank you.
And you
We
have a trip coming up to see your sister, and then she came to see you last year, and you guys did a road trip, I think she said, right?
Yeah, yes, yes. We did a road trip. We met at LA, and we went to Arizona. We went to Colorado and Utah. We just kind of hit all of those states,
Wow.
and just we had 2 weeks of wonderful getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then she came back to Florida with me, and then we went and met another cousin in North Carolina, and then she went home. But we had 3 weeks of just wonderful memories that we'll never, be able to forget. And it was such a special time for both of us. And it was a reconnection and really getting to know, like, how we grew up, and what our lives were like, and everything. And it was just so neat. And then meeting our family, and several of them and their families, and putting names with faces, and finding out backstories and stuff. It was a trip of a lifetime, and I will never forget it. It was wonderful.
That is a long time. I guess if you like each other after all that time, then you're really best friends.
Right. And then we're going to do it again this summer.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just, like I said, I would just really encourage anybody that is on the fence of, trying to figure out what to do, go for it. Because you never know until you at least try. And don't be afraid. And if it doesn't work out, it wasn't meant to be. But if it does, you found another family, and you found more people that, you can connect with. And I would always encourage that.
Yeah, more people to love, right?
That's right. That's right. You never have more, enough people to love. So it's great. I know our family has been truly blessed, and I'm thankful every day. And so I wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you.
Well, thank you for giving me the time. I appreciate it.
If you or someone in your family has been touched by adoption and would like to speak about it, please email me at whathappensafterpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please check out the Instagram for the show to see pictures of my guests that they were so kind to share from their reunions.
On the next episode, I will interview Annie, who is actually Marcie's half-sister. She was able to find out a lot about their birth mother. And although she was born and given up for adoption halfway across the world, she was able to meet and connect with some of her birth family in the United States. Listen next time to find out what happens after. Thanks for listening.